Welcome back then to Contact in the Desert, day 4. It's me, Gunnar, joining heaventoearth.com, of course, where you can have exclusive cruises, I should say, around Croatia. We're joined by Mark. Good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon.
Mark,
Pleasure.
so you've been doing a little bit of stuff with Michael Tellinger, but you have your own individual sort of processes and programs going on. Tell us about those.
I'm one of a team of 4 partners in Seattle, and we're essentially a technology incubator, specifically aligned with shifting the paradigm away from oil dependency and sustainable technologies. We all collectively believe that energy and air and water should be free and available.
Absolutely.
We want to try and remove these from the sort of slavery dependency paradigm that we're in. And we have a whole number of solutions available. We seek out, we vet the kind of garage inventors, the guys at home tinkering.
Brilliant.
And it can be a tedious process. It's a very exciting process. And over the years, we've visited hundreds of different inventors, and we look at all kinds of technologies from magnetic motors to cold fusion.
Wow.
And there's circumstances where I've seen and worked with some cold fusion solutions on a bench, and we have a guy in Washington, for example, and it's just stunning.
There's a few people who are getting close now, isn't there, to cold fusion? I know the Germans kind of ran something out a couple of months ago. I think the Brits have just done something as well. How close are we to a technology like cold fusion, and how can it change our future?
Oh, it'll change everything. Technologically, it could change everything, and it will inevitably, and we're certainly moving in that direction. It's not clear to me yet what approach, what methodology of energy extraction we will sort of, when the dust settles, what's going to be, sticking out of the sand, as it were. I'm not a huge proponent for cold fusion necessarily. There's all sorts of complexities, including political, around it. It's got a lot of baggage as a concept, and within that inherently meets lots of challenges, both technically, politically, and so on. Although the principle and the theory is sound, and it appears like a shining bright way to go.
Yeah.
But we have, as a team, we've been supporting a German inventor, Marcus Reed, out of Munich. So he developed a crystal cell technology, and there's a number of people doing that. But he's had his cells running for 20 years, and what makes this approach different, and I'll talk about this one first, because for me it's actually one of the ultimate solutions to solve the challenge. Maybe we should start from the top and work backwards, because talking about the solution, because well, you see, that helps you filter out and align your energy and resources, and you've got to keep that in line with the ultimate solution, because as we go and see lots of inventors, we try to evaluate, then replicate in our lab.
Scientific process.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a small lab in Seattle, so we try and replicate and validate what they're doing. What I loved about Marx's work is, first of all, the principle is a solid state device, no moving parts, and I think that's kind of important, because you run into maintenance, and then again you've got subscription to some entity that keeps the thing running for you, so you can have that free flow of energy. So we try and stay away, or my focus is to stay away from moving parts. Love magnetic motors, and we do have a few solutions, and as you know, there's many around.
Professor John Searle actually about his SCG.
Yes, well, I know John, and I'm personally invested in his company, and I think those principles are amazing. But of course, that opens up a Pandora's box of all kinds of other physics, plasma physics and interactions with the environment when it gets cold and it changes material states and all sorts of stuff. So that is a very fascinating approach, and certainly in the principle of high-speed shearing fields, magnetic fields, is part of the key, one of the keys to the solution. So I love that work. There's, as I'm sure you know, there's sort of political shifts, and there's a lot of, and I don't understand the complexities of the shifting in the sands that goes on in the Searle community, which I don't try not to get involved with, because I think to achieve great results we need to be greatly focused. And so even though I support and have invested in those many years ago when they started, as I'm explaining on the other track, I have other visions of how this could be. Again, John's is moving parts, but the beauty of that is that you've got that the parts are suspended, field suspended, so you don't have the wear component, which is obviously the motion issue. So back to Marcus's stuff, the solid state. We've had cells, or Marcus had cells that's running for 20 years and outputting power, a milliwatt of power, which is not insignificant.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we look at the power density and provision graphs over time, his cells have been producing, they far outperform lithium iron phosphate batteries and the best technologies we've got in the long term. However, that in the real world that doesn't really count. It's just a statistical snobbery almost. But the beauty of that is that it is continuous and it's not going to run down. And we've got the same power out coming now that we had 20 years ago, sort of thing.
So are you telling me I could have a mobile phone that I'd never need to charge again?
Love where you're going with that. And we are going to get there.
Who in the world doesn't want a mobile phone that doesn't run out after 12 hours? Or 3 in my case.
Well, this is where this technology is going. And I'll explain it a little bit further. But yes, our vision's coming back to the top and working backwards. Let's get excited about the prospect. Yeah, your phone. I mean, ultimately, the solution, as it comes to fruition and manifestation, will completely redesign our relationship with the supply and provision of electricity. Because the technology, we're working at nano level with some exotic, well actually they're rare earth materials, they're not that exotic, but there's combinations and characteristics which materials exhibit when you tickle them in the right place. And you treat life, like engineering, is all about relationships. I don't know if you read the book of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
No, I haven't.
Years ago.
I'll go and check it out.
Well, you know, that brings us back into the spiritual concept of this movement and how it evolves, which is very important too. Because as we're evolving in all of this, it's all got to, you've got to raise the game on all levels. The the spiritual, the mental, societal, economic. It's all part of the big picture. And I don't think it's going to be a sustainable evolution if any one sort of goes too far ahead of the others, because there's always something in one region. It's like a harmony in an orchestra.
Yeah, absolutely.
You all play together in harmony,
and
that's
sense.
the same for all our characteristics at all levels, right? And the energetics and so on. So this I'll come back to the technology in a minute and to some degree how it works. And we've written a couple of books. I edited Marcus's second book on it, and it's available. QuantumPowerMunich.com, and it's called Virtual Particles in Electromagnetism.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So we're Marcus's, and this is what makes him, for me and our team, stand out above a lot of the other inventors, because he's got a much deeper vision of the principles, and he's written theory to support the development of the technology.
Right.
And for me, that's very important, because the theory and the deeper understanding and also the vision will carry the technology into much more holistic places than just, boom, there's a bit of hardware, let's fix that problem, there's a band-aid, there's a plaster. Well, yes, but we know historically that when you just chuck stuff into the fire like that, it has its own karma and destiny.
Its own challenges, its own pitfalls and different journeys. It's almost Tesla-esque, isn't it, this, in some ways? You kind of just vision it, draw it, and it works.
Yes, it is. No. Well, I thought you were referring to the fact that Tesla was tapping into the ether.
I was going to come to that one. That's why I just dropped that little Tesla segue in there.
Boom, there we go. There's the quantum vacuum. Can't avoid it. It's not there, but you still trip over it. So that's a supremely important point, because really, with a sustainable solution, in my opinion, we have to be tapping into the all-pervasive etheric quantum vacuum.
I believe that energy pervades the universe in the same way that salt does in the sea, and I believe that it pervades us in the same way. I believe that does a fish swimming along in the sea know that it's full of salt? I don't think it does, and I don't think it's aware that the sea's full of salt, and I think we're exactly the same. I think we can't perceive it, but it's there, it's all around us, it's within us, it's within everything else, it's all around us as well. But it's as Tesla was trying to do with the Wardenclyffe Tower, it's how do we tap into that and bring that free energy? And more to the point, and I'm guessing you're feeling this as well in some of the work that you do, government some control, you know? People are not going to want to see this energy out there, are they, potentially? Or are there going to be pitfalls surrounding this because people are going to want to maintain control, maintain, you know, a cost on this stuff that they can actually put it? Because we're talking about energy independence here. We're talking about freedom from these things. Freedom! Freedom!
Yeah, we totally are. And this is, but also, as I said earlier, it's got to be woven in to the evolution of us as a species, mentally, politically, sociologically. It's all interwoven because, as I say, it's a rubber band, and if one goes ahead,
I agree.
You've got all this. So when you say the people, I think we have to these days we have to define that a little better because I don't think it fits in such a broad term because we know that us people, which is part of the people, are actually evolving and moving forward ideologically and philosophically and theologically. You know what I mean?
I can't say it either, so we'll just skip that bit.
It's a Monday morning. So the technology, the principle is that the ultimate solution, apart from the sort of socio-ecological and the financial constraints, needs to be embedded in everything that requires electrical power.
Yeah.
So we need to circumvent the whole generation and distribution principle that is fundamental to our current paradigm.
Yeah.
And the pinnacle, I think, of however you think about that, it's always going to take you to a distributed architecture where everything is, if you like, from a technological standpoint, becomes a sovereign piece of technology. You know, it's self-supporting, self-sustaining, and it runs forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't need you for it to operate.
So you're talking about unwriting the grid in many ways that Tesla created, I guess, with his AC power. Is power now going to become much more free and easy? We're going to be able to create it ourselves, share it amongst ourselves, take it with us wherever we go, bring it back and have it ready on hand whenever we want.
Yes. You don't need to give it to anybody.
Because they'll have their own.
It will be, and I swear to you, as I feel this really deeply, and it resonates with me, and we'll come back to resonance and relationship, that when the source of the electricity required for any particular item of equipment is embedded within the system itself, we won't need cables.
Yeah.
Imagine travelling, you know, you're going to be £5 lighter on your cases,
imagine,
right?
The amount of cables.
A couple more t-shirts, wow. More socks, my wife will be delighted. So you know, you would be able to go out in the desert and you'll have power for your laptop. You'll never have to plug. If this solution that we have now in the lab comes to fruition, which is extremely likely, and nothing's guaranteed, so I always hesitate from the definite definition, then I here suggest to you that in 5 years' time, a solution will be available whereby you can forget cables, you can forget plug sockets in the walls. Wiring in buildings will be a thing of the past. You won't need the Tesla charging stations. It's a lovely stepping stone to completely support and admire it, but it'll be unnecessary, it'll be obsolete anyway.
So it would be, say, inbuilt in the laptop in the desert, you'd open it up, press start, and it would start drawing energy from the ether, so to speak.
Exactly.
Dude, that is phenomenal.
So it's based on the principle, and back to relationship. Relationship, for me, is the fundamental key to all things, macro and micro scales.
Yeah.
Everything's about relationship, and what we need to do in terms of finding solutions and overcoming issues is find out, okay, what the first question should be, what is the harmonious relationship, optimal, between these two systems, whether it's electronic, mechanical, people. There needs to be a harmonic resonance to draw the best characteristics out of anything. Because from that principle there, you've got solid foundations of harmony on which everything else can grow, and abundance and all frills.
Absolutely.
So,
it's like electrical engineering with spirit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really cool.
Exactly, and that's why these fundamental principles do carry through.
Yeah.
Whether it's technology or interpersonal relationships or with yourself. Yeah. You know, I mean, a lot of disease and so on comes from discordance, disharmony,
Absolutely. We've been talking about it just this weekend.
Right. So there you go. It's this principle that's sound through all levels of inquiry. So yeah, it does mean that everything will be powered independently. The appliances you're going to buy at home will have their own power source.
That's
so you can stick your washing machine in your bedroom if you want.
I can't imagine sleeping too much.
Take your TV out in the garden,
yeah.
by the swimming pool, you know, whatever you want to do. No cables, forget plugging it in. Go and have a party in the desert. No generators, no backup power supplies, and no grid.
Wow, energy liberation.
Energy liberation, that's a beautiful way of putting it.
Thank you.
You heard it here first.
You can pay me something for that later. No, but it is, it's like energy liberation. We're freeing ourselves from the corporations, we're freeing ourselves from the control structure, we're freeing ourselves from the dictation, we're freeing ourselves financially and spiritually and emotionally from all of these things.
Partially financially.
Partially
it's a good start.
Yeah, it's a really good start.
I mean, a significant part of your wage and your income does go to energy to supply, maintain and support your environment, right?
But that is an incredible piece of technology. What are the things you're doing then that are much more day to day? You kind of, because I'm guessing you're not just looking at, you know, these big ideas and these big adventures in that sense. What are you doing about things like, let's say, graphene, solar panels, wind, water, you know, those kind of different technologies, biofuels and stuff like that? Are you looking into those?
No.
Because you don't need to.
Don't need to.
Wow.
They're all stepping stones. You know, wind is beautiful, solar is beautiful, they're partial systems, you've still got to store the energy. Okay, so here's another issue that I think in the ultimate principle has to be, it's not a part of the vision of the final solution. Storage of energy, why? It's available, we're swimming in it.
It's being stored all around us.
Right, back to your fish analogy. Part of the principle of the theory of the technology we're developing is that, like the fish, and you're swimming in the water, you don't know your water, blah, blah, blah. And the fish comes across an iceberg in the sea. The iceberg is water. It's the same stuff that's in him, through him, and he supports him and so on. What it is a different level of condensation of matter. Yeah. But it's the same stuff. And so and so it is with the energy that we're swimming in. The quantum vacuum, the fluctuations, it's so dense, as you know. So we're not aware of it, we're swimming in it, and depending on who you'll talk to, you get explanations of how the quantum vacuum and the etheric source of energy is actually feeding us now. You know, it's a part of our biological, we are a manifestation of that energy through various processes, right? So it's the same with the electrical energy. And back to relationships, it's all about having a harmonious relationship. So what we're doing here is creating a resonant coupled relationship with the fluctuations of the quantum vacuum. And in stage 1, which I can tell you about, we've spoken about it at a water conference in Bulgaria a few years ago, and I presented it at Tesla Tech conference in New Mexico a couple of years ago. Because, and I'll take this example to demonstrate the principle, Jason Corbelli was talking about carbon nanotubes the other day, which is one of the interesting sort of technological phenomena that we've been enjoying the development of. And in our first evolution of the crystal cells, we were creating carbon nanotubulets which contain water molecules. And of course we know water's part of the key to the bigger picture, right? It's one of those beautiful synergistic elements that is able to transmute, transduce energy concepts between different realms, and you know all the magical properties from Emoto's work and so on, right? And consciousness work. So, and this was why it was interesting at the water conference, because even though we're talking energy here, an extraction of energy from the vacuum, water was one of the key components in the building blocks of that relationship, which is just, when you just consider the concept and how we are with water, it's a beautiful link, and it seems such a natural connection. So you know, really resonate with that connection. So these lovely little water molecules are trapped in they're having a little party in the carbon nanotubes, right? And they're all dancing around, and this has been observed. And Jerry Pollack in Washington University has done a lot of work on this kind of thing. And in fact, we do communicate with him. It was his conference that we were invited to speak at. Marcus was. And so these lovely little guys, they're all buzzing around in the carbon nanotubes. And why are they buzzing? Because they are exchanging energy through the principle of condensation of energetics through virtual particles being transmuted into an energetic vibration in a synergistic coupled resonance with the fluctuations of the quantum vacuum. Water seems to have this. and when you put it in the right compartment, in the right lattice structure, it can resonate. And then if you can entrain the ions that are imparted through this process, and then sort of polarize them into a unified force, which we have done through the crystal technology. When I talk crystals, I'm not talking quartz crystals. We have a certain compound with various materials that we make the cells with, and the carbon nanotubes are embedded, and so we create a relationship chain which allows these fluctuations to manifest in the release of ions and then electrons and create a current.
Wow.
So that's the crystal cell technology version 1. Version 2, my team in which we're equal partners, and my team it's our team in Seattle. We supported Marcus for a couple of years with the version 1, and then we found some private funding from Florida. Wonderful bunch of guys, and they invested personal funds into this, which is great. Thank you, universe, because it allows us not to be trapped within any politics, of, the financial politics of that whole system. Can get a bit drudgery.
That's when you start to lose the vision, isn't it? That's when you start to be dictated to, I guess.
Yes.
When people start to put money in and say, we have these controls, we want this, we want that.
Yeah.
To have that financial freedom to go and explore these ideas and to do what it is that you want to do can really create that new paradigm, can't it?
And it's cooperative support rather than expectation and demand.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, that's more in alignment with our philosophy and our approach and where we're at as a team. So that's again a gift, and one the sort of patriarch of the team there, the private investment team, Rip Galen. He's super successful. He's widely known in the business world across America. He's done a lot of big things, and he's very connected to the Dalai Lama and their science team. And so
the Dalai Lama has a science team.
So when we get to the next stage of development manifest, which we expect will be within the next couple of quarters this year, and we have the second stage of the technology to demonstrate. Rip will be setting it up for us to introduce it to them, and of course from that heart-oriented platform we can then also launch this, because there's I had a discussion with somebody yesterday about the whole patenting concept.
Here we go with Tesla.
Well, as you know, it's a multifaceted. It's a dangerous world, the patent world, particularly in America.
Yeah.
And I don't think we should chuck the baby out with the bathwater in a sense of let's open source, let's not do patents. I personally, and as a team, we stand in the middle ground, because I strongly believe there's because it's all interwoven with our evolution. As I was saying, we have a certain responsibility with bringing these technologies to the world and the public, to shepherd it for distribution and integration in a holistic fashion.
So it goes into the community in the right manner.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, you see, if you're injecting these game-changing approaches and technology into the system, obviously you get a lot of resistance.
I'm about to say that.
I'm sure we're not preaching to the choir, so we don't need to go into that. I think it's understood. And I've forgot. Patents, yes. So I do believe in patents in a safe way, and in Germany we've done the first stage of patenting, but also you can do that as the first stage, but you need to protect the integrity of the technology so it doesn't get bastardized as it emerges. It's like your daughter. You have to shepherd her in the best possible way that you know how until she's mature enough to go to the prom and launch into adult life. Well, it's kind of the same with the technology. So there's a responsibility that goes with it. So even though you might follow the patent source just to protect it and maintain the integrity of the IP at the beginning,
getting that idea.
It doesn't mean you can't open source it in the end. All that means is that you don't start creating conflict and introducing, I want loads of cash for my idea.
Yeah, it's about making sure that product gets to the market undiluted.
Yes,
so it's not split up into 100 different ways and different ideas and different formats.
Exactly.
Mark, thanks for speaking to me.
My pleasure.
I feel like I've just met a man who's likely to change the world with his team.
Well, I think we're all here to change the world. You know, as long as we do our little bit, as long as we do a bit and we stay focused and integral, and it'll happen.
Good, man. I love and I love where you're coming from with it as well. I really do.
Too.
I love where you're coming from. It's like business with conscience, you know, and that's really
It has
cool.
to be. That's the new paradigm. That's where we have to go. It doesn't matter if we're talking about technology or water. There's a lot of stuff we haven't gone into, and maybe another time. But
definitely, we'll have to do that later again. Actually, definitely. Thanks very much for tuning in to heaventoearth.com. You can hear more fabulous interviews like Mark that we've just spoken to on the website. Go and check it out, and you can also cruise Croatia with us as well. A beautiful exclusive holiday.